What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at Baldur's Gate 3 here, running on the Steam Deck, and man, this game is really popular. About 500,000 concurrent players on Steam at the time of making this video. It's not necessarily my style of game, and it's like a 7,500 hour game, but it's actually hooking me, and it's playing pretty well here on the Steam Deck. So let's take a look here. Baldur's Gate 3 on the Steam Deck. I did have to force compatibility experimental, so we are using that Proton layer here, having trouble launching it with anything else at the moment, but that was working fine. Also using the official layout for Baldur's Gate 3 gamepad. The controller support here that's built in now is actually really good. I'm getting used to using that. We are at 800p borderless windowed. We'll talk about frame rate cap later, but I'm just at 60 and I'm on the low preset with medium texture quality. Anisotropic is at ×2. Everything else kind of left alone. FSR 1.0 is all we get right now, unfortunately, so I've left that at ultra quality. FSR 1 is very blurry and it's not great, but we kind of need it in the games right now in here. And we have TAA for our anti-aliasing, everything else on the low or off preset. It's different from what they start you with. They give you like medium with a more aggressive FSR that does not run very well and looks much worse. So I recommend tweaking your settings, even if you don't want to start with these settings, you know, lower some stuff and start working on things to get more out of the game. But there's definitely a lot of oddities with pop-in of texture and shadows, as you can see here around some of the trees. And our FPS will kind of tank as I turn around and you see some more pop in and load in and some oddities happen. And we never really do recover that FPS again here in the same area. Those kind of little things do happen throughout the game. And I expect that a future patch is going to help a lot of that. Even at low settings, even if we get some pop in and draw distance issues, we shouldn't be getting those types of issues. Now here in camp though, things do run really well here. So a well optimized area when it comes to your camp. And even if you take a rest and it becomes nighttime, you may dip a little bit, but again, you get great frame times and good FPS and a good experience in your camp. Now the game has great cutscenes with fantastic character models. Highly recommend taking your time going through all the dialogue and stuff. But when you come in and out of those cutscenes, the game actually holds pretty well here on the deck. It doesn't dip as bad as I was expecting, so in and out of cutscenes isn't so bad. But we do take a big dip in and out of menus, so like 10 FPS when we go in and out of there. Again, not a big deal, it doesn't break the game, but you do have those big dips coming in and out of those. Also, your left and right button, like to go into your different actions, that's going to give you some dips as well. And if you're in combat or a really busy area, that'll take you down into the 20s when you bring those up from time to time. There's also these this cool mechanic in the game where you got to roll the dice for certain decisions you're going to be making, and that transition is also really good, like the cutscenes where you don't dip too bad. I've got about 4 hours in, 5 hours in. These have all run really well, so it's really the menus and the quick access menus and some of the other areas that dip more. Inside, rather than just being outside in like the wooded areas, performance also does vary a lot. Now you could be in an area like this, like towards the beginning of the game, that's more like in the 30s, and depending on what you're doing with combat and that type of thing. But there are other interior areas that run more around the 50s and 60, even in combat. So it just kind of really depends on where you're at inside, outside, and all that. But having these basically low settings with medium textures and FSR 1 at ultra quality kind of gets me through. Now here's another example of an area that does want to go sub 30 and into the 20s. See, when I brought that menu up, it went to 18 because this was already a hard to run area, and there's not much more lowering I can do of settings here. And FSR is already on ultra quality. I can change it to quality or balanced, but I don't gain enough, and the picture does get really bad. We really need FSR 2 here, and I think we'll see it eventually. Now here is a 30 FPS cap using the deck's 30 FPS cap, and that gives us a little overhead to help with some of that dipping when we all of a sudden hit the system. We'll still come under 30 FPS from time to time depending on where you're at in the game, of course. Especially in this beginning 4 or 5 hours that I've explored so far, and the game is so massive, things could change down the road, which is why this is more of a first impression idea of how things are running. But the 30 FPS cap does seem to mitigate and help some of the problems I might face in some of the hard to run areas. But you saw there, bringing up the quick access menu still dipped us to 23 and then back up. So these are things that I think some patches are going to help a lot with here in the near future, and seeing how popular the game is, I'm sure that they're going to bring those patches soon enough. And I bet we see FSR 2, FSR 2.1 come to the game, and we'll definitely retest at that point too, and as I get further into the game, because that will help image quality a lot and performance. I'd also like to see Intel's XeSS come to this game as well and try that on the deck, because that's been working well in some games too. But again, It's really going to depend on where you're at, what performance you're going to get here, but these settings were just a starting jumping off point for me because the medium situation with more aggressive FSR just wasn't working well, but this has worked pretty good. I've got quite a few hours in here and it's been a good experience here on the deck, so happy to see Baldur's Gate 3 working here on the Steam Deck. Alright guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it. Leave me your comments about your settings and if you're checking out this game on your deck. Alright, thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next one.